My name is Drew Portnoy. I will be the moderator here today. A little about me. I am a journalist and a comedian, and although I'm American, I've lived in Berlin for 20 years. That's about me. I've lived here that long for a very simple reason. I married a German woman. I can recommend it. It's doing well. So we're going to do this. Thank you. Yeah. There we go. Thank you. So we're going to do the slam today in English because the Global Forum for Food and Agriculture is a parallel program to the Grüne Woche, and it's an international program. So to honor that, we're going to do it in English. And also, if you live in Berlin, English is basically the language of Berlin these days. So much to the disappointment of some people. But we'll be doing it in English. I'm also very excited to be here at the Grüne Woche because although I've lived here for 20 years, I have never actually made it to the Grüne Woche. Every year I think I'm going to come to the Grüne Woche and I go outside and it's freezing cold and I think, maybe I'll go next year, you know. So I've never been, so I'm glad to be here. And I'm also very glad to be part of the Global Forum for Food and Agriculture because as you can see, I really like food a lot. So I do. That's just a joke. Actually, I'm excited to be a part of it because I actually grew up on a farm. I'm from a farming family. And so I know the role that farmers play in the global food supply chain. And I'm curious to see what our slammers will talk about today. If you've never been to a science slam, what's going to happen is we have 5 scientists here who are going to come up on stage and present their work and tell us what they're looking at and what they're researching. And it's going to be very interesting. But this isn't about me at the moment. It's about a bigger picture. And I think to explain that would be better to have somebody from the German Federal Ministry for Food and Agriculture. So please welcome to the stage Frau Meyer-Clausen.
Thank you very much. And a warm welcome also from my side on behalf of the Federal Ministry of Food and Agriculture.
Okay, thanks for having us here. I'm really looking forward to it. So why are we doing a science slam at the Global Forum for Food and Agriculture?
Good question. So yeah, actually a lot of science is in what you see around us. So this is the BMEL halls. So we also felt that, science should be part of our international flagship event, the Global Forum for Food and Agriculture, which is happening alongside the opening of the Green Week. And this year's topic, transformation of food systems, is very high on the political agenda. And it's really, a very crucial topic. And we wanted to, connect this international discussion and our topics with the with our presentation on the International Green Week. And there's, as I say, we have a large focus on research and innovation. And a lot of people are not aware of that in agriculture and food, there's a lot of science. And therefore, we really thought we should have a science slam as part of our GFFA.
Yeah, it does fit. It does really fit. And I've met all the participants, and I was shocked. They're not just from Berlin. They're not even just from Germany. They're from all over the world. How did you select our slammers today?
Yes, we've really gone very international because that fits to the GFFA as a global event. And of course, it's about global food security. And over the last few years, this is the 5th GFFA Science Slam. The first 2 were also here on stage. Then, of course, due to the COVID pandemic, we had 2 virtual years. And that also helped us to recruit people from all over the world. And we really felt that's the way it should be, So this year we felt, yes, let's find talented young scientists from all over the world. So we had an international call for applications. And we got around 50 applications, and we chose the best 5, and here they are. So you will see them on stage just now.
Okay, now just between us, who's your favorite?
Well, I don't know yet because I have not seen their presentations yet. But I think I figured out that I have a special connections to some of the countries represented. So I used to live in South Africa for a long time, but I also lived in Rome for some years. So I think I'll have to see how they do on stage. And then I will be part of the audience who will make the decision.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much for your time. And we'll see you later on, I guess.
Yes, please enjoy.
Okay, thank you. All right. So before I explain the rules of today's slam, I thought it would be a good idea if we just introduce all the slammers so you get to know who's going to be presenting today. So I will introduce them and they can come up on stage. First, we'll have Lorenzo Fruscella from the University of Greenwich, followed by Leah Orr from the Johann Heinrich von Thünen Institute, and then Anjani Nayak from the Justus Liebig University, then Basil Daher from Texas A&M University, And last but not least, Metron Ziga from the University of the Western Cape. So these will be your slammers. OK, guys, thanks a lot. By the way, if you look here, there's a timer, just so you know we didn't talk about it before. OK, cool. All right, we'll see you in a minute. Thanks a lot. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So a science slam is actually a competition. You might know it from poetry slams or story slams. It's not any different from that, except that we're going to be presenting science. And because it's a competition, there are rules. But actually, there are rules because we're in Germany. That's the real reason there are rules. We can't do anything without rules. But we've limited the rules. They're very simple. And it's important that you as an audience know what the rules are, because the audience will be picking the winner later on. So you need to understand the rules. And then later on at the end, we'll be using an app, of course. This is 2023. We use an app to pick the winner. We'll explain that to you guys later on. But the audience will pick the winner. And so the rules are, first off, that the slammers present their own research. They can't present somebody else's research. Their presentation has to come from their own work. The second rule is that they have to be understandable. You have to understand what they're talking about. You have to be able to explain what they're talking about later on. That's a problem in science, and we're trying to overcome that so that people can explain what they're doing. And also, it needs to be entertaining. We don't want to just sit here and listen to a regular presentation. We want to have fun while we're doing it. And the final rule is all of that has to happen in 10 minutes. They only have 10 minutes to do their presentation. They're nervous about that already, I know, but I think they'll do it. I think it'll be fine. And because of that, we need a volunteer to keep time. Is there somebody who would volunteer to keep time who's got their phone charged up? Anybody volunteering? Anybody? Nice. Would you do it? Your phone is charged up? All right, cool. We'll get you a prize of some kind. And we have a bell. There you go. Can we have an applause for our volunteer timekeeper here? What's your name? Sorry. Michaela. OK. Thank you, Michaela. So here's what we do. We'll need you to watch time, and at 9 minutes, so that the slammers know they're getting close, just ring it kind of lightly. And then at 10 minutes, ring it like you mean it. So could we have a brief demonstration of what you think it would be? So it's 9 minutes. What would that sound like? That's good. Yeah, that's good. That's a warning. Everybody hears that. We know that. And at 10 minutes, when it's over, OK, yeah, your neighbor's already nervous. OK, that was perfect. Thank you. Thanks. Yeah, round of applause for. Thank you very much. OK, so that's good. We've got it all worked out. And if they go over 10 minutes after you're done ringing, then slammers, I will come up on stage and physically move you. So just, I've only had to do that once, and we're still in litigation. So no, I've never had to do it. It's never happened. And I assume it won't happen today either. Good. So we've got that. We've got the rules. We've got the timekeeper. We've got the slammers. I think all that's left is to start the slam. Are you guys ready? The audience. OK. Cool. Yeah, the slammers are looking nervous. That's what they should do. All right, then I'd like to ask the first slammer of the day to the stage, Lorenzo Fruscella from the University of Greenwich. All right. So we can you're studying at the University of Greenwich right now, but we can tell by your name you're probably from somewhere else. Where are you from?
That's right. I'm from Italy, specifically Rome. I grew up in Rome, and I left when I was 18. And moving to the States. So I graduated from the University of Santa Barbara in California. And then I went a bit all around the world, really. Went to South Carolina first. Then I graduated from the University of Greenwich in Scotland, got my master's there. And then moved to New Zealand, did my research on king salmon, working in aquaculture. And then ended up in London after a few years, and where I'm doing my PhD. So.
And what are you doing your PhD in?
Aquaponics. So my background is in marine biology and fish science, but I found a way to shift to plants. So now I'm combining plants to fish and finding a way to grow plants with fish together, symbiotically.
So you spent all this time doing marine biology and aquaponics. So do you want to keep researching after you're done with your doctoral dissertation, or what's your plan?
I'm still uncertain. Honestly, my dream would be to buy some land and start growing my own food. And to do that, I think I would probably pick Italy, going back home after 13 years. It's a big decision. If I don't manage to do that for the first few years, I think I'd like to stay in England and maybe do a postdoc and keep doing research in sustainable farming practices. But eventually, yeah, I'd like to follow my gut feeling and fulfill my dream and become a farmer if I can.
Yeah, nice. Well, you're at the right place today. All right. Well, I won't keep you any further. Michaela, are you ready? OK, then let's go. Thanks.
Thank you. All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Lorenzo, as you know now. I'm a PhD student at the University of Greenwich in London. And today I'll be telling you really what I've been up to these past 3 years, doing research on the soil inclusion in aquaponics. So let's get started. Aquaponics is a novel way of producing food that involves fish and plants grown symbiotically together. The way it works is pretty simple, pretty straightforward. The waste from the fish is processed by bacteria that naturally occur in the water, transformed into nutrients for the plants. The plants absorb these nutrients, they grow, clean the water for the fish, and this way, both of them, they grow symbiotically together, helping each other out. This is what your conventional aquaponics system looks like. The plants naturally grow floating on platforms, and the roots are directly in the water, absorbing nutrients from the water. So why on earth, pun intended, would I want to introduce soil back into a system that functions without soil and everything is all right? Why would I want to add soil to this system? Well, the fact is that there are fewer than 50 companies in Europe, aquaponic companies in Europe. And the situation of aquaponics in Europe is pretty dire. There are even fewer than those are able to make profit. And indeed, it looks like commercial aquaponics is unable to take off. It is speculated that organic certification of aquaponics would improve the marketability and therefore commercialization of aquaponic products. However, as I argued in my latest publication, even though aquaponics naturally fulfills all farming principles, there are still some rules that hinder the certification, the organic certification of aquaponic products in the European Union. Namely, the fact that in order for any vegetable, a tomato, salad, a lettuce, to be certified as organic, they have to be grown in soil. And naturally, aquaponics doesn't have any soil. And also the fact that fish waste, fish water, cannot be used as a fertilizer in organic agriculture. This is a stark contrast with the fact that manure is not only allowed but encouraged to be used as fertilizer, while any waste from any aquatic organism cannot be used as fertilizer in the European Union in organic agriculture. Luckily, I'm probably in the best place to do this kind of research. This is where I'm based. This is the Department of Landscape Architecture at the University of Greenwich in London. And these are the main locations where my research took place. You have the main aquaponic glasshouse on the left, where I took the water from my experiments. In the middle, you have the small glasshouse, where I performed on the experiments indoors. And outside, you have the horticultural beds, where I grew vegetables outside, onions, many other types of vegetables, all fertilized with fish water. This is what the main aquaponic glasshouse looks like. It's a tropical glasshouse. We have over 300 fish, Nile tilapia, and we grow tropical varieties, tropical crops. So we have turmeric, taro, you can see taro, bottom right. We have a bitter gourd, a gourd from Bangladesh and India, and many others, also conventional vegetables like tomatoes and lettuce. And sometimes the plants can get a bit out of hand, like you can see in the top right picture. If they grow too much, especially if we have vines, it looks more like a jungle than an experimental aquaponic glasshouse. And this is also where I grew my pride and joy, a bitter gourd, sorry, an Italian gourd that I brought from Italy, and all grown aquaponically. So it's a kind of squash pumpkin variety. And I was so excited that I took a video of it growing, and here you can see me holding it proudly. That was a proud day for me, a proud Farmer's Day. And as I said, I performed 9 experiments. I don't have the time, only 10 minutes. I don't have the time to show you guys exactly how I performed them, got into the specifics. But overall, I wanted to challenge the fact that the fish waste is not deemed as an appropriate source of fertilizer, as I said, and that aquaponic produce is not organic. And I did this by comparing the growth of plants in conventional manure versus fertilized with fish water. I also wanted to test the soil inclusion in aquaponics to make it organic, to see if that would make it organic, so introduce soil back into aquaponics. Here you can see, I'm show you two experiments that I did outside. One is from growing bok choy, aka Chinese cabbage, on the left, and the turnip on the right. And here, I compared, in some treatments, I used manure, and in some, I used fish water to fertilize my plants to see which one would perform best. And the results were really outstanding, in my opinion. You can see the bottom two is where I used fish water, and especially the one that bottom right, where I used sludge, which is unfiltered fish water, so with solids and full of nutrients for the plants. It grew huge. There were huge bok choys, and weighing 3 times as much as the one where I put manure in. So fish water actually outperformed manure by a lot, which is totally unexpected and a big surprise. Same thing for the turnip that I grew, and the same thing. The two fish waters outperformed the manure, growing bigger and weighing 3 times as much in the fish sludge treatment. And if you're wondering how I took these beautiful pictures, yes, I had each plant a photo shoot for every single plant. It took a long time photographing hundreds of plants, but I think it was worth it. For this one, here I grew basil. And what I did was I designed some very straightforward coupled aquaponic systems. You have tanks with fish. Inside the little fish, very cute. And the top, I put some trays with plants. And look, I was able to add soil. So I had pots with soil in, different types of soil, some with compost, some without compost. And the way it worked is water was taken from the fish unit, brought up into the plant unit, and through a hole, it would go back to the fish unit, forming a full recirculation cycle. And so I was able to achieve my dream, do a soil-based aquaponics. What I found was that the soil inclusion actually got rid of all nutritional deficiencies. And there seemed to be a cumulative effect of compost and fish water. So the two combined, the nutrients from the compost, the nutrients from the fish water combined, and it created the best yields, really, which are 2 huge results, never performed before. So here again, here we are at the conclusions, and as I said, I don't have time to get into the specifics of each one. However, I can tell you that we saw that fish effluents were indeed able to produce higher yields than manure, and they increased the soil fertility by a lot. Also, the addition of soil allowed for the addition of soil in aquaponics allowed for sludge addition, which in coupled aquaponics increased yield substantially. And also, I didn't show you this, I didn't have time, but I also experimented with chili peppers, and adding sludge actually resulted in spicier chilies. I analyzed the capsaicin content of chilies, and it resulted in spicier chilies, more chilies, and bigger chilies. So what else would you want? And finally, this is a tangential project that I did with my supervisor. Here, this is a typical Martian landscape, except for the pods that are not there generally. My supervisor and I, we started thinking, what would happen if we took the soil from Mars, which is devoid of any organic matter, really. It's called Martian regolith. We actually added water from the fish, from fish units in the future. What if we had aquaponic systems and we're able to take the water from the fish and add it to the soil and to create organic matter in the soil to support plant life, which is, yeah, I know what you're thinking. It's exactly what happened in the movie, The Martian, where he grew potatoes, however, using human waste this time. So we did it. My supervisor and I, we built this system. We experimented. It was an experiment and also an exposition at the same time. And we had a tank with fish and a tent, professional grow tent, to grow vegetables. Took the water from the fish and used it to fertilize the plants. And we had lots of different vegetables, tomatoes, lettuce, potatoes. We had to have potatoes. We grew many different types of vegetables. I don't have the data yet available since it was very new. We haven't analyzed the data. However, we compared here, we compared here organic soil, conventional soil with Martian regolith. It performed very well. Plants actually grew. Every plant grew, even the ones from Martian regolith. And so the addition of fish water actually worked, produced plants. And without the fish water, the plants wouldn't have been able to grow. So it was a success. And with that, I'll finish before 10 minutes. I'd like to thank you all for your time. Thank you.
Right on. Thank you, Lorenzo. You have a seat. Thanks a lot. Yeah, cool. I tried to roll my R. Did I do it? I didn't do it. I can't. He said if I couldn't roll my R's, I couldn't say his name. So I can't say Lorenzo. I tried it. All right. Well, now I know if I get to make it on a Mars mission, who I'm taking with me. Definitely going with me. All right. So let's bring up our second slammer of the day, Leah Orr. From the Johann Heinrich von Thünen Institute. All right. What are you completing your doctorate there? What are you doing there?
No, I'm just a boring old researcher on a mission to reduce food waste.
That does not sound boring. I don't think I didn't. Does that sound? You're going to talk to us today about food expiry dates.
As well, yes.
Yeah. How did you get interested in this research field?
Well, I don't actually really know exactly what point that was, but I started my bachelor thesis on the topic of what influence the wording has that we use for date marking, and actually found out in my experience, but it's a bit longer ago, that it's not a big difference. And then somehow this topic has stayed with me, continued whilst my master's, and now I'm working in the field.
Researching. So if you have food that hasn't expired and it's expired officially, the date is passed, do you eat it?
Well, just a week ago, my boyfriend was like, we've got this yogurt and it's expired on the 9th of December. We're going to have to chuck it. And I was like, no, let's open it. It's fine. I didn't have anything after it. I ate it.
Yeah.
So no.
I'd like, before you explain to me how you determine whether a yogurt is spoiled or not, what's your marker there?
Is it green and does it smell weird?
Then it's blue cheese, I think, is what happens after that.
Actually quite nice.
Okay, and then there's one hot topic, especially for this ministry, that we talked about, containering, that people go into supermarket trash cans and take the food that's in there out of it to eat it. And you had some interesting thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, I think that for one point, it doesn't actually hit the topic where it's most needed. And that the other thing, what we forget is the supermarkets throw it in the bin for the reason, and we don't know which reason that is when we take out the yogurt. So what if it was a product callback from the company, because there might be glass in the yogurt? You can't see that from outside, so it might actually be dangerous.
Okay, thank you. I thought that was very interesting. All right, are you guys ready for your next slammer? All right, are you Michaela? Are you there? All right, then let's go. Have fun.
Thank you. I'm doing something very different than ever. I'm doing a poem, so bear with me whilst I try and take you on the journey of Mr. Apple and myself. I've called it Food for Thought and used a picture of an apple tree with my grandma, my daughter, and my husband on the picture, just to give you the family picture. It's called The Childhood Dream of an Apple and How a Scientist Helped. Let me introduce you to Mr. Apple, as you do. He's a medium-sized, bright red fellow with hints of green and shimmers of yellow. We all had a dream when we were young, like football star or other jobs we thought were fun. All Mr. Apple ever wanted for himself was to be eaten and to pass on his health. It all started with a packet of seed, protection and keep the place often weeded. Sun, some rain, and busy bees, that's what his upbringing needed. When all was perfect, like color and size, so that the farmer would get the right price, Mr. Apple was picked and carried away. But something was weird. Some of his friends had to stay. To Mr. Apple, they looked perfect, deliciously juicy. But all the farmer saw was he wouldn't get the right price, you see. Some had a few bumps from the storm months ago, or others just didn't have the right glow. Mr. Apple was sad, but had no plan, so he continued his journey in a great big van, stacked floor to roof with plastic crates, and driven right up to the supermarket gates. Our Mr. Apple arrived at the store. His crate was lifted, put down on the floor, where the apples were resorted and put out for display. Mr. Apple was excited, couldn't wait to be taken away by a customer who would carry him to their house, cut him up and share the vitamins with their spouse. Mr. Apple spent days in the supermarket shelves. Some people lifted him to test the consistency themselves, but all put him back down in the crate with his friends. One day he knew if he wasn't sold by 10, his dream would burst like a bubble right then, and he'd land in the bin, a most terrible of ends. He looked at the clock on the wall by the door. He saw the hands were moving, just one move more. He saw the shopkeeper closing the doors. He heard the steps rushing over the floors, when suddenly they stopped right in front of him. He looked up, saw the face and the hair so trim. He felt how the hand was gripping him tight, carrying him through the corridors, left and then right. Now he felt the fresh air tickle his skin, flew in a high arc, and landed in the bin. His tears began to flow slowly down his face, giving him the feeling he was surely without grace. When a voice from beside him stopped his tears flowing, "Dry your eyes, mate. Maybe it helps your knowing. You're not alone. Take a look left and right. We're in here together, and it's really quite tight. I'm a single banana, and people don't want me. This is Miss Yogurt, just past the MHD." Mr. Apple was shocked by the large amount. So many others he could barely count. This couldn't be normal, and it definitely wasn't right. Something must change. Against food waste, they must fight. So Mr. Apple set out on a mission, climbed out of the bin with his no food waste vision. How big was the problem and what could be done to end up with less food waste, better even with none? He searched for an expert and found one online, gave discussion forum a call. She sounded just fine. Mr. Apple was invited to join the round table with shopkeepers and experts who were able to give deep insights into food waste amounts and to which reduction methods were the ones that count. The discussion forum was made up of two sections: monitoring food waste and reduction actions. Discussion forum said, "We've declared it our aim to share the experience and knowledge we gain. We studied our finances, used our markdowns to estimate carefully those food waste amounts. We added some variables you're sure to like these, like a 30% donation for human consumption and a unique euro to kilo conversion. At last, we found out that the food waste rate was reduced in 2020 compared to 2019 state. To give you a picture of what this really means, for each of those thousands of 10 euros turnover, it's 20 cents wasted behind the scenes. This isn't a lot, I grant you, but each little step counts towards reducing those unnecessary food waste amounts. The members of the forum implemented 202 reduction actions, like communication optimization to reduce supply chain fractions, like selling less variety at the end of the day, or raising the amounts they were giving away. 2 of the actions we sustainably assessed to share the efficiency and effectiveness with the rest. By the end, we had jointly written a voluntary agreement where the companies committed to SDG 12.3. What an achievement. We will see what the future holds. We want you to be among the bolds. Mr. Apple and I have a wonderful dream. We'd like to invite you to join our food waste fighter team, because nothing has to stay as it is right now. You are also a little bit responsible how? You use your Apple and do your shopping. Food waste is something we all should tackle. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Leah, Leah, thank you very much. Instead of Peppa Pig, it was kind of Adrian Apple. I don't. That was very nice. That was very good. Okay, so we're on to our third slammer of the day. Is she ready? Yep. Please welcome Anjani Nayak from the Justus Liebig University, and apparently some very spooky friends. Okay. There looks. Are they all? Do they all have names? No. Okay.
You can try
You can try
to name them.
Okay, you're studying right now at the Justus Liebig University in Gießen.
Yes.
And where are you from originally?
I'm from India,
Ah, what part of India?
southern part of India. It's a state called Karnataka.
Karnataka.
Yeah.
Never heard of it. Okay. Nice. I can't. If I could tell you where I'm from, you wouldn't know where I'm from.
It's the state capital is Bangalore. Maybe. You know
Okay,
that.
yeah, Bangalore. We all know Bangalore. Yeah. Okay. And what are you studying at the Justus Liebig Institute University?
Yeah, I'm doing my PhD there. I'm working on insects, mainly this particular insect called black soldier flies. And my PhD is in collaboration with Fraunhofer Institute for Molecular Biology and Applied Ecology, and also in collaboration with a company called Hermetia Barut GmbH.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're going to be talking about black flies as a food source. Have you ever eaten any insects?
I have eaten quite a lot of insects, but I'm not a regular eater. But once I started to tell people that insect protein is the future, I had to make a choice to start eating them, at least trying them. Yeah, so I have tasted a few.
So what's your favorite?
I think I like insects when they are sautéed with some spices rather than a European way where they put insects in muffins and chocolates or mueslis.
So you're trying to hide them.
Yeah, but yeah, true. But you can also have savory version like crisps, where you can also hide the insects, which is important for those who are disgusted by seeing a beautiful insect, unfortunately.
Did you have trouble eating the insects the first time?
Yes. I started to study the subject, and I was in the topic for a few months, and when I had to eat the insect for the first time, I was having it in my spoon. I was like, wow, this is really hard. So that's why I'm really into this topic, but I can also say that you all can change your mind. It was hard, but it's not impossible.
Okay. It's kind of like doing a science slam, I think. It's you can get the courage to come up with it. So now you have not only eaten insects, you also have some very interesting pets.
Yes, I have some dogs. No, just kidding. I have Madagascar and hissing cockroaches as my pets. They are beautiful. They are this big.
They're huge. I looked them up. They're like this big. They're gigantic.
Yeah, but they look like polished wood on the top, and they're very docile, friendly, harmless, and very easy to keep. Like, I'm here not feeding them at all for a few days, and they're just fine.
When you walk in the room, do they recognize you, do you think?
No, I don't think so, but sometimes they make some hissing noises. That's why they're called hissing cockroaches. And I just think they're communicating with me, and I just hiss back.
So you speak Madagascar hissing cockroach.
Yeah.
Is the grammar easier or more difficult than German grammar?
Obviously easier.
Yeah, of course. That's what I agree with. Okay, we made enough German jokes, I think, for one slammer. Then, are you ready?
Yes. I
Okay,
think I
you're
don't
ready?
have a choice.
All right. Yeah. Have fun. Let's go.
Thank you. Hi, again, my name is Anjani Nayak, and I'm here today to talk about, of course, insects. I'm sure there might be quite a few among you who are either disgusted or terrified of insects. I really think you might be tempted to change your point of view towards insects. Let me try. But before talking about insects, I want to give a bit of background to show why what I'm doing is important. We all know that feeding the world in the future is a challenge. There is an increasing population. With this, there is a huge demand for food and feed, especially protein and fat. On the other hand, we waste a lot of resources. Is there a solution? Yes, insects can be a solution. It is possible because they are nutritious. They are a rich source of protein and fat. The other advantage is that they emit lower greenhouse gases compared to conventional meat production. And they also have the ability to convert organic waste, that too with high conversion efficiency. One such insect that has these wonderful traits are called Hermetia illucens, or black soldier flies. There are 4 stages in the life cycle. So here in this cage, you can see the adult flies. During the warm, nice, temperate, tropical climate, they are going to hatch. They're going to lay eggs around 900, and the eggs will hatch within 2 to 3 days, and tiny little larvae arrive. These larvae, within 20 days, are already this big. And these larvae can be a source of protein for various animals. If you don't harvest them and let them grow, they're going to turn a little blackish and then brown and become that they don't move anymore for 2 weeks, and then the pupa opens up and an adult fly comes out. And then the cycle repeats. For me, the very interesting stage is the larval stage, because this is the only feeding stage in its life cycle, and here they feed almost anything biodegradable. And this is really, really cool because, as I said, we have a lot of agricultural byproducts which are simply discarded. One such agricultural byproduct is spent mushroom substrate. After harvesting the edible, tasty mushrooms, you have these blocks which are either dumped or burned. I aim to utilize these byproducts as a feed for my larvae and thus reduce resource wastage and also produce some larval protein. Methods look almost similar. I have different combinations of feeds, which usually includes spent mushroom substrate and chicken feed. I use chicken feed because this is the standard diet which is used in the European insect industries as a feed for black soldier fly larvae. And I have different combination of these feed, and I add 8 days old larvae to these boxes containing 100-gram dry matter feed. And after 10 days, keeping them in a controlled condition, of course, I harvest the larvae. And I look for biological factors that feed might influence. And later on, I also do some chemical analysis to see how the composition of the feed influences the larval composition. Jumping directly into the results. So the first question was, how much of the chicken feed can be replaced with spent mushroom substrate? So I used different combinations of chicken feed and spent mushroom substrate from 0% to 100%. And the survival rate, there was no significant difference between the treatments. And even when I used 100% spent mushroom substrate as feed, the survival rate was pretty good. However, the total biomass, which is the total weight of the larvae and prepupae that I had, were different from treatment to treatment. And the higher the spent mushroom substrate I had in the feed, the lower was the larval weight. And I also saw that the weight of the larvae was not so relatively good compared to the weight of the larvae with higher chicken feed substrates. So I decided to use the feed substrate with 50% and above chicken feed ratios. And the other question was, how many larvae do I put per box? Because the problem here is, if you use fewer larvae, then you are not using the space and resources fully. On the other hand, if you use more larvae, there is a competition between the larvae for feed and space. But I used some factors which could help me to identify which density could be better. So considering the weight of a single larva gives us a better comparison. So at 400 and 1,000 larval densities, you can see even with the chicken feed, which is the control diet, the larval weight was around 150 milligram, whereas in the lower densities, it was a bit better, but only when the spent mushroom substrate ratio was up to 20%. But still, I can say the lower densities of 200 and 250 is the best. And feed conversion ratio is the ability of the larvae to convert the consumed feed into its biomass. So here, lower values indicate better conversion efficiency. And in the graph, with 250 larval density, the conversion ratio was between 1.5 and 3.5. And considering the larval weight and substrate degradation and feed conversion ratio, the 250 wins the game. The other factor was waste reduction index. This is simply defined the larval ability to reduce the feeding substrates. So higher value implies better substrate degradation. And here, at higher larval densities and with lower spent mushroom substrate, we had better substrate degradation. But if we want to use more spent mushroom substrate as feed and we want to have better larval production, then 250 larval density was seen as the best. I want to show also a bit of chemical analysis result, mainly crude protein and crude fat content. What we found was the crude protein content was between 11 and around 17 gram per 100 gram dry matter in the feed. And it was, as the crude protein content in the feed was increasing, the larval crude protein content was decreasing, which was different for crude fat content. So the larval fat content was higher from the feed, which also had a higher fat content. So I know it's a lot, but bringing it all together, now we know that feeding the black soldier fly with spent mushroom substrate is possible, and it is better when we mix it with substrates like chicken feed or other feed ingredients. And we also know that if we want to replace 50% of the chicken feed with 50% of the spent mushroom substrate, then the recommended larval density is 250. We also learned that unlike crude fat content, crude protein content is negatively correlated between substrate and larvae. Finally, I want to make this point very clear. When I'm talking about 250 larval density being the best for 100 gram dry matter feed, I'm talking about substrate degradation that is happening, but also without compensating the larval production. But if you want to only reduce the substrate waste or organic side stream because of all the problems we have, then you can definitely go for higher larval densities, like 400 or 1,000. So you have to understand that it is a tug of war between larval production and substrate degradation. So I think I would like to stop here. It's a good time to stop bugging you all. So if you have more questions and curious, please feel free to catch me. I will be flying around here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Anani. Hey. I didn't know I was going to end the day knowing about larval density. That's good. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
You can leave your friends if you want. It's,
OK.
I think. Yeah. I think they're all right. Is that all right? Are they going to be in your way? No. All right. So we come to our fourth slammer of the day, Basel Daher from Texas A&M.
Hello.
So you are not a doctoral candidate either. You're actually working for Texas A&M. Right?
Yes.
But you did. Now you're going to talk about food supply, but you actually did not start out in food. I saw your resume. You started out as a civil engineer.
That's correct.
How do you go from being a civil engineer to now talking about food supply?
So I actually grew up very passionate about building physical bridges. And then I started getting to know more the complexity of the societal challenges we face as today, and realized that engineering know-how is not exclusively sufficient to address these challenges that have different social, economic, political dimensions that we also need to understand. So I translated that passion from building physical bridges to building bridges across different disciplines and different communities to work together to address these complex societal challenges.
I guess that sort of answers my next question, is how did you come up with the topic that you're going to talk about today?
Yeah, so starting with civil engineering and kind of the water environmental part of civil engineering, I got interested in water security. And then as I started looking at the complexity of water security challenges, I realized also how interconnected water security is with food security as well with energy security, and basically was drawn into trying to develop solutions that address these three interconnected challenges and ensure that decision makers across these sectors are coordinating in a way that is consistent with the interconnectedness of these challenges.
It's funny, when I looked at your resume of what you've done and what you're working on, I thought, wow, I would hire this guy. And I thought, I have no jobs open. I barely have a job myself. But I was going to, and I thought, oh, you're probably going to go into the private sector, but that's actually not what you're interested in.
Actually, a lot of my passion is, after 10 plus years of conducting research, is translating that research and bringing it into evidence-based decision-making, science, policy-making, as well as bringing it closer to practice and to stakeholders on the ground. So I believe that would be the next chapter of my life.
Okay. And now you're not originally from Texas, are you?
I'm originally from Lebanon.
Okay, you're from
But
Lebanon,
have
right.
called Texas home for the past around 9 years.
So as an American who's not from Texas, I'm skeptical, but so how is Texas?
I love it. You should come visit soon.
Do you have cowboy boots and a cowboy hat?
Absolutely.
All right.
I have those ready for you. I have extras ready for you as well.
All right, maybe I'll accept your invitation. Why not?
Absolutely, anytime.
All right, you guys ready for your next slammer? All right. Mikhail? Yep, all right, let's go.
Thank you. Have you ever grabbed an apple, and as you were about to take the first bite into it, stopped, looked at it, and asked it about the story of its life? I promise you I haven't lost my mind, but please bear with me. In fact, every day as we go through our supermarkets, filling our shopping carts with produce and with food products for our dinners for that day or for that week, how often do we usually sit and reflect for a moment to think of all the natural systems, the resources, and the network of people that made this possible, made these food products available on our shelves? So what would that apple tell us, for example? It would tell us about the soil and its quality that it grew up in. It would tell us about the water it needed to grow, the source of that water, whether it was rain-fed, whether it came from groundwater, whether it came from surface water. It would tell us about the land it required, the fertilizers it needed. It would also tell us about the journey it took from farm to market and how much energy that took and how much emissions did that emit. It would also tell us about how much of that produced apples were wasted. So food is tightly interconnected with other systems, and we need to better understand these interconnections, better quantify these interconnections, and develop the necessary tools to develop evidence-based decision-making and evidence-based interventions across the food sector and all of the other sectors that are interconnected with it. And this also requires a high level of coordination between the different partners and actors across these interconnected sectors. And that's unfortunately not the case today. To give you an example of one of the projects that I've worked on for the past few years, which is an NSF-funded project in Texas, in San Antonio particularly, which is one of the most rapidly growing and urbanizing cities in Texas and in the US, which also has a lot of growth in terms of the agricultural sector surrounding the San Antonio region, as well as a lot of energy development with hydraulic fracturing, which is also very water intensive, which is also in that region. And all of these sectors are growing and are projected to grow into the future. And to give you a sense of that growth, so all of these dots you see on the map are water wells. The blue dots are water wells for municipal use for the city. The red dots are water wells for energy development, and the green dots are water wells for agricultural use. And we can clearly see with the growing sectors the potential competition that exists between these sectors over similar water, land, and financial resources in this area. So you would expect that these sectors are cooperating, coordinating at some level, planning together at some level. So we asked that particular question: how frequently are these actors across these interconnected sectors communicating? So we sent a survey to 157 water public officials in the San Antonio region, asking them about their frequency of communication with different water, energy, food, and planning stakeholders in the region. 90% of the responses we received from 101 water public officials showed us zero communication with any of the water, energy, food, and planning players. Out of the 10% that showed some level of communication in the past year, showed us that most of that communication is happening within the water sector itself, with little communication that's happening between water and energy or water and food and other planning stakeholders. So when we met with our stakeholders in the San Antonio region in a stakeholder engagement workshop and asked them, why do you think so? What are some of those barriers for communication? And they told us, we actually know about the challenges we're facing. We know that our challenges are interconnected, but there are certain barriers, mainly with the lack of coordination mechanisms between our different institutions. It's not of our mandate to do any of this coordination work. There are no financial resources allocated to do this kind of integrative planning. There are differences in planning horizons between the different sectors. The water sector is interested in a 5-year plan, where the energy sector is interested in more of a 2050 horizon, which also creates a challenge. The lack of collective outcomes and KPIs, common KPIs across the different sectors. So different sectors are measuring success in different ways, which also creates a challenge. And the lack of common goals. So as we think of how we want to transform our food system to a system that is more sustainable, resilient, equitable, we need to make sure that we are addressing these barriers for coordination and communication between these sectors within the food system and other systems that are interconnected with it. And that coordination does not only need to happen at a regional scale or at a national scale. As a matter of fact, and as we've been seeing throughout the past couple of days, our food systems are global and our food supply chains are global. And that dialogue needs to happen at a global scale as well. And as a result of that global nature of our food system, a drought that's happening in Argentina or a conflict that's happening in Europe or the Middle East affects everyone, wherever we are in the world. And we're living through that today with the growing energy prices, reflecting on the growth in fertilizer prices, reflecting on the growth in food prices, making food unaffordable to those who can least afford it today in many regions of the world. And this is where the Sustainable Development Goals becomes a useful platform to really create coherent plans across different nations and to catalyze that collective action between different nations as we work towards zero hunger by 2030, while recognizing the tight interconnectedness between SDG 2 and all of the other SDGs that are interconnected with it. And this is where, here I'd like to emphasize that everyone has a role to play. You don't need to be an agricultural expert to play a role in transforming food systems. Everyone has a role to play, no matter the region you come from, the discipline you come from, the sector, your expertise, the age group you come from. Everyone has a role to play. We all can learn more about the source of our food and the resources it takes to produce those foods that we consume. We all could encourage local farmers, shopping at local farms. That doesn't only impact our local economies and improves the resilience of our food systems, but also ensures that we are consuming less resources, especially in terms of energy and carbon emissions associated with these food products. And third, reducing food waste. Around a third of our food, according to the United Nations, is wasted. And reducing that food waste ensures that we're reducing the resources and the pressures we're putting on the food system, and in turn, the pressure we're putting on other systems that are interconnected with it. The last point I'd like to end with here is the importance of including the different stakeholders across the different systems in the dialogue when we're talking about transforming into a food system that is more sustainable, resilient, and equitable. Sustainability, resilience, equity mean different things to different stakeholders across different sectors. And I think one of the main stakeholders that need to be in the room are farmers. And farmers have different technological capabilities, indigenous knowledge, as well as are facing different kinds of resource challenges in different places of the world. And we need to ensure that how we define sustainability and its metrics, and how do we define resilience of the food system and its metrics, incorporates how these farmers view sustainability and resilience and equity as we move forward. And here I'd like to call on all of us, whether we're talking about the next academic conference, talking about food system transformation, or the next policy dialogue. So we ask if there's a farmer in the room, and if there is not, make sure that we have an empty seat with us that represents the farmer's perspective on our panels and in our dialogue circles, to ensure that if we don't have a farmer in the room, that we are missing a perspective and think what would a farmer say as part of this dialogue. So the next time you're shopping for your next meal or you're about to have a bite of your delicious apple, I'd like you to think of all of the resources, the network of actors, and all of the infrastructure that goes behind making this in our hand possible, and always thinking of the farmer that is at the forefront of facing a lot of the shocks and the challenges that we face us today, and think of the role that you would like to play in shaping a food system that is more sustainable, resilient, and equitable for all of us. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Pasalo.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Guess we don't. Since I grew up on a farm, I guess I am the farmer representative here today. We still actually have the family farm in Illinois. My brother runs it. I show up once a year and drive tractors. It's a lot of fun. It's good. That's the best thing to do on a farm, by the way, is driving the tractors. Okay, so now we come to, last but not least, as the Germans say, our final slammer. Please welcome Metran Ziga from the University of the Western Cape. The table is getting full. Nice. Should we move some things? Do you have enough room? We can give you some more room.
Okay.
Plus, they might eat the, yeah. Okay, welcome. So we've asked everybody else where they're from originally. Where are you from?
I'm from Zimbabwe.
Oh, well, you're from Zimbabwe. All right.
Oh, thank you.
Gee whiz, good. An entire crowd. That's good. All right, that's good. And so what are you doing at the University of the Western Cape?
Okay, I'm studying towards a PhD in International Development Studies.
Wow. All right. And you're going to talk to us about non-communicable diseases from food.
Yes.
And the weird, when I looked at that, I thought, what does she mean? And I actually asked a couple of my friends, because I'm not the brightest guy on the planet, so I thought maybe I was the only one confused by that. They were also confused. So what kind of diseases are you talking about? Non-communicable diseases from food.
Okay, so these are non-infectious diseases, meaning that they cannot be transmitted from one person to another. Examples are diabetes, cancers, and cardiovascular diseases.
Ah, okay, so that makes, yeah, now I get. Now I know what we're talking about there. Okay, I was confused. And this is your actually first time in Europe and Germany?
Yes, it's actually my first time.
And what do you think?
It's a bit too cold for me.
This is the secret about Berlin, is we all suffer through the winter because it makes the summer that much better. You have to go back in the summer and then you think, wow, what a fantastic place. But if you come back having not been through the winter, you'll think just, nah, it's all right. So you have to come back in the summer. But right now you live in Cape Town in South Africa?
Yes.
And what do you like to do there?
I like hiking.
And where do you go hiking?
I've been to the Lion's Head. I've not hiked the famous Table Mountain yet. I still need a bit of exercise, build a bit of muscles to hike the Table Mountain.
But the Lion's Head is also a big, tall mountain.
It's very big.
So I looked this thing up. I had no idea. It looks straight over. It looks over the entire city. You climb up there and can see the whole city.
Yes.
The city
yes.
on one side and the Atlantic Ocean on the other.
The view is very nice from up there.
And how often do you go hiking?
About maybe once in 3 months. It's not very often.
Once a year more than I go, so that's good. Or 4 more times a year, actually. That's what I meant. Okay. Good. Well, then actually we have lots of nice hikes in Brandenburg outside of Berlin. Maybe you should come back sometime, go hiking, because you're only here for a couple days there. Are you guys ready for our final slammer? All right. Are you ready?
Yes.
Let's go. So, Mikhail, yeah.
Stefan, please bring it on.
Jerusalema, ikhaya lami, ilondoloze wangishilana Jerusalema ikayalami ilonoloze.
And this is where the fun ends, unfortunately. Anyway, the song is Jerusalema by Master KG featuring Nomcebo, and the dance video was done by Phenomenous December, a group from Angola, who contributed into making this song a global hit, with many people posting their different variations of the dance challenge, mainly during the 2020 COVID-19 hard lockdowns. Many people were able to find hope from this song, maybe because of its spiritual and religious nature. But I think many people could relate to the dance video in particular because of one common uniting factor: food. Everyone has to eat, and it is one language which joins everyone together. I thought you were going to dance along with me. You didn't stand up. I thought I was going to see a few people dancing along, and then I noticed that maybe it's because you do not have plates of food with you. Right. I'm going to assume that for today. Well, unfortunately, this is the lived reality of many poor South Africans. They do not have food to eat, or if they do manage to get some food to eat, it is mostly ultra-processed food. Why opt for ultra-processed food? Number one, because of the aggressive marketing done by big food and beverage companies, which make it appealing to children. Number two, it is cheaper, especially for many poor South Africans who have to spend almost 50% of their incomes on food. Three, it is easily available. Four, it is easy to prepare. And five, it is easy to store, especially for people who do not have access to refrigerators or live in a limited space. Unfortunately, ultra-processed foods are high in fats, sugar, and salt, which make people more susceptible to non-communicable diseases, NCDs. Non-communicable diseases are non-infectious diseases, as I had said before, meaning that they cannot be transmitted from one person to another. For example, diabetes, cancers, cardiovascular diseases. These are responsible for the deaths of more than 51% of the South African population. NCDs are largely attributed to unhealthy diets because they generate a greater burden of disease as compared to other risk factors like smoking, alcohol consumption, and physical inactivity combined. This therefore means that food system transformation offers opportunities of tackling NCDs. And why food system transformation in South Africa in particular? The South African food system, like many other food systems in the world, is inequitable. Inequity denotes a lack of fairness. Food system inequity is a system which disproportionately denies access to nutritious food to communities of color and to people living in poverty. What is the evidence of food system inequity in South Africa, you may ask? Number one, South Africa produces more than enough food to meet domestic needs, yet more than 50% of the population is at risk of hunger. About 6.5 million people are food insecure. So clearly, food insecurity and malnutrition are not a food unavailability issue. Rather, many people cannot access nutritious food because they are living in poverty. About 55% of the population is poor, and there are also high levels of inequality, especially if we take into cognizance that South Africa is the most unequal country in the world, according to the World Bank. Number two, 1 in 4 children under 5 are standard. Yet in stark contrast, 1 in 8 children are overweight. This means that there is a double burden of malnutrition in the country. Number three, supermarkets in low-income areas stock less healthy food, while supermarkets in wealthier suburbs stock more healthier food. Number four, there is a higher proliferation of fast food outlets which sell unhealthy foods in low-income areas, while in wealthier suburbs, you find more healthy food shops. And number 5, about a third of the food produced every year is wasted. Well, I'm not a bearer of bad news. I did not come all the way from South Africa bearing bad news. There is hope. The South African government has made significant strides in developing policies which seek to tackle non-communicable diseases. For example, in 2013, the government implemented legislation which makes sodium reduction mandatory within the food industry. Advertising unhealthy foods to children is strictly prohibited. And South Africa was the first African country to introduce a sugar tax in 2016. However, the country has stalled in its efforts to develop and implement front-of-food package labeling. Although the effectiveness of these policies is yet to be realized, it is quite commendable, isn't it, that NCD reduction through food policies is on the policy agenda. Does this therefore mean that we can now go ahead and sing Hakuna Matata? It's a problem-free philosophy. Hakuna Matata. I'm sure some of you are familiar with that song, Hakuna Matata, meaning no worries from the Lion King. No, not yet. We cannot sing that song yet, at least for now, because there's still a lot that needs to be addressed. There is still a need to close the gap between policy and practice. What is needed in South Africa and in many places in the world is an equity-focused approach, which looks at the environment where people are born, where people work, where people live, where people play, while at the same time focusing on food availability, accessibility, and pricing in local food environments. Other interventions could also include introducing a basic income grant to target the unemployed. School feeding programs are key intervention areas, and the government could procure its food for school feeding programs from smallholder farmers so as to promote the thriving of local food systems. Subsidizing healthy foods while it's taxing unhealthy foods is another key intervention opportunity. And offering innovative funding to retailers who sell nutritious food in underserved areas would also be another recommendation. And the government also needs to take the reins of the food system. Food system governance is crucial. The government should not leave big food and beverage companies shaping the food system whichever way they want. Food system transformation is not only good for the health and well-being of human beings, but it is also good for the environment. Allow me to conclude with the words of Utata Umadiba, as South Africans affectionately call him, Nelson Mandela. He said, "It is in your hands to make a better world for all who live in it. You, yes, you and me have a role to play. Let us all make healthy food choices. And while it's doing so, let us think of others who do not have the privilege to make those choices and do whatever we can in our own little separate corners to influence food system transformation for food security and the reduction of non-communicable diseases for all." Thank you. Thank you.
I danced internally. In my head, I was dancing. I think most of us were dancing. So that was our final slammer. Could we get a round of applause for all of our slammers, our 5 slammers today? That was very good. I have to say, this is the first group of slammers I've met where they're much more shy in private than they are on stage. I was a little nervous talking to you guys. Privately, you're just as nervous as I am one-on-one, and then on stage, suddenly, you were these gigantic personalities. So that was very nice. It was very fun to watch. I really enjoyed that. That was very good. Next, we had our coworker there briefly. Could we also get a round of applause for the timekeeper, please? Thank you, Michaela. You didn't have much to do. It was easy today, but your work is very much appreciated. Do we have? All right. We'll see if we can find a present for you. All right. Good deal. Yeah, we had an apple or two, maybe some black flies. You could have some black fly larvae. I hear if you fry them up with some spices, they're very delicious. So now we've come to the point where the people in the audience get to pick the winner of today's slam. And I just want to say as a little treat or a little hint of what's going on, you might have seen there's a little bit of excitement. The Minister for Food and Agriculture himself will announce the winner when he shows up here in a little bit. But we'll see when he makes it here. So that should be pretty interesting. But so now I'll explain to you how we are going to pick the winner. This is 2023, so of course we're going to do this with an app. It's called TEDme. I don't think you should start. Are we starting the voting yet? Don't start the. It's the voting started. So the voting started. Okay, well then wait a second. We have to get all the slammers back up on the stage. Please come on back up stage. Lorenzo, Leah, Anhani, Basel, and Tigran. Yeah, thank you very much. Here they are again. All right. So maybe we should go back through these. Quick review. So we saw Lorenzo's presentation. He wants to feed fish poop to plants, and found out that if you mix it with a little bit of dirt, it actually improves. And we also got to see the largest Italian gourd I think we've ever seen. And am I the only Berliner who was a little nervous when I saw fish tanks on tops of buildings? That was a bad memory for Berliners, fish tanks in buildings. But I'm sure yours are much better than ours are. Then we came to Leah Orr. We met Mr. Apple. Your poem reminded me of Peppa Pig, I have to say, as a father. Adrian Apple. And we can all join the food waste fighting team. Yes. Yeah, we can be superheroes. I like that. And we also got to meet your grandmother, your child, and your husband. On the, yeah, it was beautiful. It was very nice. I like that very much. Then we came to Anjani, okay. Yeah, every time I say it differently. All right, so you want to feed mushroom substrates to flies. Yeah, and we found out today that the optimal density is 250. 250, but you could go up to 400. Yeah.
Depends on your goal. If you
wanted to.
If you want larval production to be higher, then lower density. If you want to get rid of the waste, then higher larval density.
She's really in the topic.
Yeah, of course she is. That's her thing. And you also, I think, had one of the funniest graphics. You had a larvae with a knife and spoon. I was not aware that flies eat with knives and spoons. So that was. I also learned that today.
They are very hungry larvae.
Yeah. Then they just shovel it in. They could just.
Yeah.
Okay. Then we came to Basel Daher. We learned that you want to try to get all of the workers, the energy, the water, and the food people talking to each other, which I think is a very ambitious goal because I don't even talk to my neighbors. So I think talking to...
said it's going to be easy.
It's going to be... But I was very honored when you said we need a farmer at the table because, like I said, I come from a bunch of farmers. I don't always want them at the table, but I'm glad you do. I think that's very good. And also, you're going to give me a cowboy hat and boots. Loan them to me. I realize.
Come to Texas.
I will come to Texas.
Yeah.
That's no problem. I've been to Texas. I survived. So then finally we finished today with Metron Ziga. I thought for a few minutes I was going to get away from a dance challenge because I can't look at TikTok. Bam, it was right there. You cannot escape dance challenges in the world today. And then some Mahuna Katata. And unfortunately, I did not have lunch, and you had donuts up there the entire time. There was a salad too, but all I saw was the donuts, which I think is exactly the problem you were talking about. I'm a victim of that. So I think we all know. So there we go. So now I guess you guys, I saw everybody was doing it already. You can pick who you'd like from our 5 to be the winner today of our slam. Did that work out? Thank you all for using your data to do that for us. Although data is not as valuable as it once was, but still, it's getting toward the end of the month. It's getting serious. All right, another round of applause for the slammers, please. All right, now you guys can go sit. Yeah, go to. All right, so now we have to, yeah. If they what? Oh, so was everybody able to vote? Apparently we had some problems. Everybody, they're still working on it? Okay, so don't stop the voting yet. Are we still voting? You can keep voting. Please keep trying to vote. Yeah, keep trying to vote. You're stuck on the hourglass, or what do you have? All right, our crack tech team will be over there. All right, to help you out. All right. So a lot of times at the slams, we like to talk a little bit about science that's going on in the world right now. And most of it's usually climate-related science, which is not very great at the moment. But I did find one encouraging thing, and that was a new survey by Morning Consult found out that Gen Z is very concerned about food and the environment, and that 32% of Gen Z say that a food's specific impact on the environment influences what they eat. So they think about what they're eating before they eat it, which is compared with 17% of boomers who don't really think about anything when they eat food. They just shove it in their mouth. And I hope there's not many boomers here. Anyway, I actually get to live this every day because I have 2 teenagers and my son is vegan because of the environment. And so I am trying, I myself am doing Veganuary. I've been vegan for this month, yeah. And thank you very much, yeah, it's great, yeah. Some really nice health benefits, but of course the best benefit of being vegan is knowing all the time that I'm better than everybody else. So that's, and then telling everybody all the time. It's great. But I did have one thing. The thing is, when you stop doing something, you discover what you miss. Like when I stopped drinking for a while, I found out I missed red wine. And I was doing fine with Veganuary. I did not miss anything until yesterday when my wife got out some cheddar cheese for breakfast to put on her brötchen. And then I had to sit there at the breakfast table and explain to my family why a grown man was crying at the breakfast table. So I finally found out what I'm missing in eating. As I said, I'm married to a German woman. I don't know if have you guys experienced German directness while you've been here this week? Has a Berliner told you what they thought about what you were doing specifically? It's been all right. It gets rough sometimes when you live in Berlin for a long time because every bus driver will tell you what they think of your wardrobe. It's a little bit. And Germans just say they're being direct, they're just being open, they're just being honest, and the rest of the world says you're being rude. But you get used to it. But it's very nice being married to a German because then my family gets to experience German directness. And my family, actually, talking about food today makes me think about my family a lot, not just because of farmers, but our hobby as a family is going out to eat. If you look at me, you can see that. And it's the same thing every time my dad says, who wants to go out to eat? And we all throw up, which is ecstatic about going out to eat. And then he asks every one of us individually where we want to go out to eat. And he doesn't care. He actually does not care. He then at the end says where he wants to go out to eat. And we all have to act like that's exactly where we wanted to go to eat. It's the same thing. But the nice thing is when my German wife came home to visit my family, she did not know this game. So my father asked everybody where they want to eat, and it got to my wife, and she said, I want to go eat at Reaver's. And then at the end, he said, hey, let's go to Applebee's. How about Applebee's? And we all had to act like that was the best idea he ever had. Yes, Dad, let's go to Applebee's for the 5 millionth time. But my German wife stood there and said, no, I want to go to Reaver's. And so my dad had to say, okay, I guess we'll go to Reaver's. The food there has never tasted that good. It was the best moment of being married to a German woman. My family has also visited me in Europe, and that's when I got to find out, if you don't know, food in America and Europe is actually different. And I found out we went to Italy. We took my dad to Italy. My dad is a very grumpy person. We went to Italy, and we ordered dinner, and he said, I want to get something simple. I want to see if it tastes the same as in America. So he ordered... I'm sorry, you have to hear this, Lorenzo, I apologize. He ordered pasta pomodoro, which is some spaghetti with some tomato sauce on it. And when it showed up, it looked like what would be an appetizer in America. It looked like about 3 bites, and my father was furious. He was ready to just leave the entire vacation, go home, and eat what he thought was real Italian food. Then he took 1 bite of this spaghetti pomodoro in Italy, and you could see that in that moment, my father thought his entire life had been a lie, because it was the best Italian food he'd ever had. And now he never wants to come back to Germany. He just wants to go to Italy all the time. Unfortunately, I had the exact opposite reaction. We'd lived here for 3 years, and we flew back to see my brother on his farm in Illinois. We stopped in Chicago, went to what we thought was a nice Italian restaurant, and I thought, oh, we're back in America where they have gigantic shrimps. Like in Europe, it's hard. You can get them now, but back then, you could not get big shrimps in Europe. So I thought, oh, I will get a shrimp Alfredo dish thing, and I was picturing a small pile of pasta with a little bit of sauce on it and 3 very nice shrimps on top. What the waiter brought me was a soup. It was just cheese and milk, and it was angry, and then I had to agree with my father that I wanted to go back to Italy and never eat American food again. Okay, we had 105 people vote in the Science Slam, and we have a special guest here to announce the winner of the Science Slam. Before we do that, I would like to thank the Ministry for Food and Agriculture for inviting us to do the Slam as part of the Global Forum for Food and Agriculture. I had a great time here, so thank you very much for the invitation. So this is kind of an honor for me. I'm excited to be able to introduce our guest. He and I both have something in common, and we both have something in common with everybody that lives in Berlin. We have both at least once had our bike stolen. And so, yeah, that's very good. So please welcome the German Minister for Food and Agriculture, Cem Özdemir. Thank you very much. Thanks, sir. Good to meet you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming to the 2023 Global Forum for Food and Agriculture Science Slam. Mr. Portnoy, thank you for hosting the Science Slam, and yes, we do have that in common, but my bike now is safe. I really have it locked in a way that I hope nobody can steal it anymore, which unfortunately is really a shame that bicycles are stolen. And of course, a big thank goes out to our Science Slam participants. Thank you very much for the amazing talks that unfortunately I mainly missed. I'm sorry for that because I was in the meeting of the Agricultural Union where I had to deliver a speech. I would also like to express my sincere thanks to the colleagues from the Federal Institute for Risk Assessment for their support in organizing the Science Slam. The focus of this year's GFFA, and therefore the Science Slam, was placed on the transformation of global food systems. We are concerned with the question of how we need to change our diets in order to prevent our planet from being overexploited in future. Today, we learned, for example, what role fish excrements could play as a fertilizer in food production, or how organic waste can be transformed into insect feed. Anyone who thinks that science is a dry subject should definitely experience a Science Slam. I really recommend that. Not only are they vivid and entertaining, they're also educational for that exact reason. As Albert Einstein once said, smart people simplify things. This emphasizes just how smart the participants of the Science Slam are. From my own experience, I know how hard it can be to spark people's enthusiasm for complicated matters. I constantly have to do that. And I know just how terribly long 10 minutes can be for the audience as well as for the speaker, if during a speech the audience is not infected by enthusiasm. But we live in a complicated world. We're experiencing a number of crises that are, as you all know, closely interlinked with each other. We have to feed a growing world population and, at the same time, conserve our environment, the climate, and the diversity of species so that we will be able to live on this planet in the long term. There will be no simple solution to these problems. That, unfortunately, is also part of the truth. And this is why we need people like you, young, highly motivated scientists that not only have the necessary specialized expertise, but also the gift of sharing knowledge with others, including laypersons, and to enlighten and motivate them. This applies to the transformation of the food system. People will not change their behavior or throw away preferred habits overboard if they don't understand why. But this is exactly what is needed now. We have to bring about change now, at this very moment, and create new norms and habits. We cannot afford to lose time anymore. And speaking of time, I think it's about time for me to reveal the winner of this Science Slam. The audience has spoken. And the winner of the 2023 GFFA Science Slam is, I hope I don't mispronounce the name, Leah Orr from the Johann Heinrich von Thünen Institute. With her entitled Food for Thought, the childhood dream of an apple and how a scientist helped. And I would also like to thank all other participants of the GFFA Science Slam very much. To me and all of us, you are all winners. After all, it's already quite a feat to have made to this stage. Thank you very much, and congratulations again.
Thank you.
The 15th Global Forum for Food and Agriculture GFFA Science Slam. This is to certify that Leah Orr won the first prize in the 2023 GFFA Science Slam by presenting her current research topic on food for thought, the childhood dream of an apple and how a scientist helps, in a clear and entertaining manner. Congratulations on this special achievement.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
You want to hold this?
Oh, God. Thank you, guys. It's been fun. Thank you very much.
Welcome. And now I would like to hand over to the participants, Basil Daher. This is to certify that Basil Daher, do I correctly pronounce your name?
Yes.
Lucky me. Successfully took part in the 2023 GFFA Science Slam by presenting a current research topic in a clear and entertaining manner. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Oh no. He's not reading it for everybody. He's not reading it for everybody.
Lorenzo Frustella. Frustella? Frustella. You're Italian? Buongiorno, io sono Jim. Come stai? This is to certify that Lorenzo Frustella successfully took part in the 2023 GFFA Science Slam by presenting a current research topic in a clear and entertaining manner. Congratulations. Grazie. Anjani Nayak. Okay. This is to certify that Anjani Nayak successfully took part in the 2023 GFFA Science Slam by presenting a current research topic in a clear and entertaining manner. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Welcome. And you know, sorry for all the mispronunciations, but here is a person whose name was permanently mispronounced in school. You know, my first name is Jem. And in Germany, you start to have English at the fifth grade. So one of the first words is obviously marmalade. What is the English name for marmalade? Jam. So you can imagine how I was called in school, you know. At the fifth grade, I was called Marmalade. Hi, Marmalade. How are you doing, Marmalade? So it's not the nicest thing. That's why I decided to become a politician, to take my revenge. That's why I'm here. Okay. Metron Ziga. This is to certify that Metron Ziga successfully took part in the 2023 GFFA Science Slam by presenting a current research topic in a clear and entertaining manner. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All the best. Thank you. Have a good day. Thanks.
So, thank you very much, Minister Özdemir. Yeah, it was very nice, very nice. Okay, can we have all the slammers come back up on stage one last time? you guys, you're going to get your 20,000 steps in just by coming back up on stage all day. It's going to work out much better there. So there you go. Okay. So I just want to say once again, thanks a lot for coming, and congratulations to all the slammers for participating today. Thank you very much. Hang on, wait for a picture. Thanks a lot.